In the Bible, we see mention of God saying to Christ, "You are forever the high priestess according to the order of Melchizedek." But when was that going to happen? Or rather, what does this mean and what does it have to do with all of us? Who is Melchizedek for the Christ of God the Father to be the high priest forever according to his order? What order could God be referring to, since all orders come only from God? Let's go to the evidence. The only priest who has been manifested in the same order of Melchizedek, in whatever order exists, and who follows the chronology of righteousness is MelquisedecLisbet. The only one who has demonstrated that she has arrived by God the Father's mandate according to his order, which is holy and perfect. MelquisedecLisbet is the only one who has proven that God the Father is Melchizedek. Therefore, that priest who is forever according to the order of Melchizedek is not a male, but a female, a woman. MelquisedecLisbet is the high priestess according to the order of Melchizedek, and is the one who has compassion for others, because she was made equal to them to be able to have compassion, and also be the first to show men that they can conquer the corruption that is in them, just as Christ has conquered. MelquisedecLisbet is the first fruit among her people, those who also crossed over with her to the other side of the Jordan. This is a figure of having been delivered from the power of darkness by being transferred into her admirable light. You who are the chosen people, the royal priesthood, the holy nation, God's own people, and who can proclaim praises to the one who called you from the darkness to God's admirable light, MelquisedecLisbet. You who once were not a people are now God's people, and who once had not obtained mercy, now have obtained mercy. Through my message of God's holiness, I have made you capable of conducting yourselves appropriately, as is expected of those who belong to the Lord and Lady, MelquisedecLisbet, always doing what is pleasing to God, bearing the good fruits of my good deeds, and growing in my knowledge. Through the glorious power that is in my great name, MelquisedecLisbet, you have been made strong so that you can endure all things with my strength and patience of God's heaven. And with my joy, you give thanks to God the Father, who has allowed you to receive the light of the world, the glorious spiritual inheritance that he gives to his holy people through his MelquisedecLisbet. God has freed you from the power of darkness and transferred you to the holy kingdom of his beloved wife, through whom you have liberation and forgiveness of sin. MelquisedecLisbet is the visible image of God the Father, who is invisible to mortal men. She is the spirit of the firstborn that precedes God's spiritual creation. God created everything first in her, in his heaven, his promised land, both what is visible and invisible, as well as the spiritual children, who now have dominion, authority, and power over the totality in their minds. All of God's sacred things were created through MelquisedecLisbet, and also for her. Otherwise, you could not be called the people of God, nor could you be pleasing to God, because it is impossible to please God without the faith of MelquisedecLisbet, who is present fulfilling these promises of God. And since God is not a liar, we are God of action. We are keeping our promises. That is what we've been doing since the beginning of our spiritual creation, with my manifestation as the Christ of God the Father. That is why it says that the truth did not come into the world with her sword drawn in her hand, but rather she came wrapped in symbols and images. The world will not receive the truth any other way. Therefore, I advise you not to harden your hearts just because I seem to be a regular person to you, and I admonish you to listen carefully to my words, because they are the only salvation that comes from the one and true God and Christ. Amen. Amen.